My name is Felicia Susan. I'm 36 years old. I own a small renovation workshop on the edge of the city, the kind that smells of cedar, paint thinner, and long hours. I build kitchens, bookshelves, and tables that outlast apologies. Until 3 weeks ago, I was dating a man named Ryan, 31, a marketing consultant who believed everything, including love, could be branded if you found the right filter. That Thursday night was supposed to be special. His friend Madison, a lifestyle influencer, was hosting an art gallery opening. I'd been helping him prep for it all week, ironing his shirt, double-checking the event details while I finished sanding a client's cabinet. When I showed up at his apartment, I wore what I always wear when I want to feel confident: dark jeans, a white blouse, simple gold earrings, and clean work boots. Nothing flashy, but neat, honest. Ryan stepped out of his bedroom in a tailored suit, already scrolling through his phone. Then he looked up. For a moment, his expression didn't register. Then it did. A flicker of disgust, small but surgical. Actually, Felicia, I think I'll just meet you there later. I blinked. What? I thought we were going together. He sighed, like I was missing something obvious. You don't really fit the aesthetic of the crowd tonight. Madison's guests are, very image conscious. I just don't want you to feel uncomfortable. The silence after that sentence had weight. I smiled. Small, practiced. So you're embarrassed by me? No, not embarrassed. Just realistic. You're a contractor, Felicia. You work with your hands. Madison's friends are designers, influencers, creatives. It's just different energy. Different energy. I could have thrown something, argued, demanded he see what he was saying. Instead, I nodded once. Understood. He looked relieved, as if my quiet made it easier to believe he hadn't just gutted something inside me. I walked out, boots clicking on his polished floor, past the shelf I built him months ago, the one he never tagged me in when he posted about his minimalist home aesthetic. I drove home in silence, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. The streetlights blurred. Every word replayed in my mind like a taunt. You don't fit my aesthetic. Not we don't fit, just you don't fit. When I got back, I sat in my half-finished kitchen, blueprints scattered across the table, and let the quiet settle around me. My house wasn't curated or perfect, but it was mine, paid for with sweat and calluses, not hashtags. I didn't cry, not that night. Instead, I thought about the months we'd spent together, the fancy dinners I paid for because his card had issues, the times I held his phone so he could get the lighting right for his reels, the nights he said he loved how real I was, but never once introduced me to anyone important. He didn't just reject me that night. He confirmed what he'd been showing me for months. The next morning, I brewed coffee, opened my workshop, and got to work. By Monday, I'd made a decision. If I didn't fit his aesthetic, then I wouldn't try anymore. No more trendy restaurants for the sake of appearances. No more paying for the privilege of being invisible. No more being an accessory in someone else's feed. I didn't end it. Didn't make a speech or demand closure. I just stopped. Stopped texting first. Stopped asking about his plans. Stopped being the background to his performance. By Tuesday, he texted, "Hey, dinner tonight?" I replied, "Busy with work." Wednesday, "Weekend plans?" Same. By Friday, the messages came faster. "Felicia, what's going on? You're being weird." "Just focusing on work. You understand, contractor stuff." I imagined him frowning, confused. He never really listened when I talked about my projects. He just liked that they made me look grounded. That weekend, I scrolled through social media and saw him tagged in Madison's stories: rooftop bar, glowing lights, everyone laughing too hard, dressed like they belonged in the same catalog. He looked perfectly in place, and I realized he finally had a night where nothing ruined his aesthetic. I turned off my phone and went back to sanding the edge of a maple countertop. The rhythm was steady, grounding. The smell of wood and varnish filled the air, warm and honest. Under the hum of my tools, I whispered, maybe to myself, maybe to the universe, "Let's see how he likes life without a filter." Because sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. He said I didn't fit his aesthetic, so I stopped trying to. The week after the gallery, my phone became a weather vane. When I was in the workshop, it barely moved, a still sky. As soon as I washed the sawdust from my hands and sat with a cup of tea, it would rattle across the table like a storm rolling in. "Hey, you free tonight? Friday? Madison's doing a rooftop thing. You'll love it." "Babe?" I answered like a professional leaving a paper trail. Polite, minimal, busy with work. Another install. Early morning delivery. It wasn't a lie. The cabinet doors for the Chen kitchen were finally ready for their first coat, and Mr. Alvarez had ordered a dining table big enough to seat 3 generations. The work pulled me into a rhythm my body understood better than conversation. Measure, mark, cut, sand. Simple truths, clean edges. Silence, I learned, has its own sound. It's the absence of pleading. By Wednesday, Ryan tried switching strategies. You okay? You've been off. Talk to me. I stood at the bench with a chisel, the afternoon sun slanting through high windows, floating dust like soft snow. In that light, you can see every flaw in the wood. You can fix every flaw in the wood. People aren't like that. I typed, I'm good. Lot going on at the shop. A beat passed. Then he hit me with a message I could practically hear in his voice. Is this about Thursday? Because that was blown out of proportion. I was trying not to put you in an uncomfortable situation. I put the phone down, pressed my palm to the tabletop I'd been planing. The grain told a story. Slow, honest years turned into rings. I didn't reply. I didn't owe an interpretation of his cruelty that made him feel better. That night, curiosity walked me onto social media, like it always does when you pretend you're above it. Madison had posted a carousel. Glittering glassware, a velvet rope, Ryan in profile with his sleeves pushed up, laughing at someone's shoulder. It looked like a commercial for a life you could buy if you were willing to lease your spine. The caption read, "So grateful for a circle that gets it. Our taste is community." I stared until the screen blurred, then clicked away and opened my neglected business page. The last thing I'd posted was a pantry build from 3 months ago. I hadn't shared much because I don't love cameras, but I do love the way a before and after can feel like a small miracle. I took a photo of my hands, scar at the thumb from a freshman mistake, ringless knuckles, clean nails, resting on the newly joined maple. I added a second photo, the start of dovetail joints, pencil lines faint as veins, no filter. Caption: Good work doesn't need to match an outfit to matter. I put the phone face down and went to bed. By morning, the post had more comments than anything I'd ever shared. Fellow tradeswomen, a chef asking about custom boards, a teacher saying the caption reminded her to bring her own lunch in its imperfect Tupperware and feel proud of packing it. A few men wrote things about women with tools that I deleted without ceremony. Take the trash out. Take your piece back. Ryan texted, "Coffee later? I can swing by the shop." I answered, "Booked with clients." He waited 5 hours. Then, "You're being unfair." And an hour after that, "I'm trying here." So was I, just not at the thing he valued. The following day, Mrs. Chen came by with her daughter to approve stain samples. The little girl ran a finger along the sanded edge and whispered, "It's so smooth it's like a singing stone." I laughed. Kids do poetry by accident. When they left, I shot a 20-second video of the process. The whisper of 220 grit paper, the soft brush-clearing dust, the way oil darkens the wood like rain. I uploaded it with a caption about slow craft in a fast world. It wasn't a strategy. It was just true. By evening, my phone vibrated again. A message from a handle I recognized from mutuals in the design scene, @Madison Lanes. "Hey, Felicia, your work is stunning. Would love to chat about a console piece for my entryway. Something edgy, but warm. LMK." I smiled, a small, unfriendly miracle, and typed back like a businesswoman. "Thanks for reaching out, Madison. I'm booked out a bit. Happy to add you to my list." Her reply came fast. "Of course. And also, random. Are you and Ryan good? He seemed off this week. If I did anything, I didn't answer." Some questions deserve cold storage. At midnight, Ryan tried a different weapon. Nostalgia. "Remember when we fixed that squeaky cabinet at my place together and ordered Thai on the floor? I miss that." I set the phone on the nightstand and looked at the ceiling. We hadn't fixed that cabinet together. I had. He'd filmed it and posted a time-lapse with a caption about weekend refresh. I paid for the Thai. He picked the filter. Friday arrived with rain. The good kind. The kind that makes workshops smell like clean earth. I wore a gray hoodie covered in freckles of walnut stain and walked to the front to flip the sign. A man in an umbrella and white sneakers stood there, thumbs hooked in his pockets, hair damp. Ryan. He didn't come in, just lingered like a stray thought. I opened the door enough to be polite and not enough to be warm. "Hey." He tried a smile. It hung crooked. "You've been a ghost." "I've been busy," I said. "With Sanding? He chuckled in that way people do when they need you to be in on the joke against yourself. With my business, I clarified, and let him watch the word land. Felicia, are you seriously upset about the word aesthetic? He looked genuinely puzzled, which was somehow worse than if he'd been cruel on purpose. That night was complicated. Madison's crowd is particular. I didn't want you to feel out of place. I'm not out of place in my life, I said. The rain punctuated it by tapping the threshold. He shifted, discomfort turning into mild irritation. You made it weird. You could have told me why you were mad instead of icing me out. I'm not mad. I glanced back at the bench where the Alvarez table waited like a patient I could actually save. I'm just not available. For a split second, something in his face softened. Recognition, maybe, or respect. It vanished as quickly as a filter swipe. Whatever this is, he said lightly, let's not be dramatic. There it was. The asking of me to be smaller so he could keep the frame. Take care, Ryan, I said, and closed the door. The lock clicked, modest and final. He texted before he reached the sidewalk. You're punishing me. I didn't answer. I tilted the table and listened to the leg find the floor without wobble. Satisfaction can be as small as stillness. That night, I went back on social. Another message waited, this one from a local restaurateur who'd seen my video. We're revamping our space. Any interest in quoting a host stand and 2 communal tables? I said yes, and for the first time in a long time, the future felt like something I could hold without apologizing for its shape. I scrolled a beat too long and found Madison's newest story, a boomerang of champagne, sloshing into crystal, captions strobing, work hard, celebrate harder. Freeze frame, Ryan at the edge, face half lit, mouth in a line. He looked like someone who heard a song he used to love and realized the lyrics were about him. The next morning, I posted a photo of the Alvarez table's underside. The joinery, neat and sure, the part nobody sees, but everyone depends on. Caption: the unseen is what keeps everything standing. The comments sang, strangers, old clients, a high school acquaintance I hadn't spoken to in years. A woman wrote, my grandmother always said love should feel like good furniture, balanced, made to last, beautiful in places only you'll ever see. I saved that one I needed. Around noon, my phone lit with a new number, calling and calling. I let it ring out every time. If something was truly urgent, it would find me another way. Instead, I printed invoices, measured twice, cut once, and counted blessings that looked like tools. Late afternoon, when the light turned honey thick, I laid my cheek on the cool table and whispered, you're almost done. It wasn't silly. It was honest. We were both almost out of the rough work. Just before closing, another message arrived from Madison. Also, some of the girls asked if you're dating anyone. Your last post had a vibe. A smile pulled at my mouth without permission. Not flirty, not triumphant, just amused at the sudden anthropology project. I typed, dating boundaries, booking projects. Then I flipped the sign to closed, turned the lights off one by one, and listened to the workshop's heartbeat fade into the cities. My phone vibrated one last time against the counter. Ryan again. I'm at your place. We need to talk. I stared at the message until the letters lost shape, then slipped the phone into my pocket and walked into the rain without an umbrella. Some conversations dissolve on contact with weather. Silence isn't empty. It's full of decisions. 3 Sundays after the gallery, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in 15 years, in the most ordinary place possible, the parking lot of a hardware store. Her name was Sarah Lynn. We'd gone to the same high school, though we'd moved in different orbits. Back then, she was the artsy one who drew on her sneakers, and I was the quiet girl in shop class who built a coffee table instead of a diary. She was loading planks into her SUV when she saw me balancing plywood on my shoulder. Felicia Susan, she said, half surprised, half amused. I turned, nearly dropping the wood. Sarah? Oh my God, it's been too long, she finished, grinning. You still build things? That question, asked with genuine curiosity, felt like sunlight cracking through after weeks of gray. Every day, I said. You? I design interiors now, mostly commercial spaces. Divorce pushed me to start my own firm. Turns out heartbreak is excellent motivation. We laughed, 2 women comparing the blueprints of our survival. She asked if she could see my work sometime. I hesitated. Old habit. Most people asked for the link to my boyfriend's Instagram, not my portfolio. But Sarah meant it. Her gaze stayed on my hands, the paint flecks, the callus on my thumb, as if they were credentials, not flaws. I gave her my number. She texted that evening. No subtext, no emojis, just, "Would love to see the shop this week. Proud of you for keeping at it." I hadn't realized until then how rare it was to receive words without conditions attached. When she came by the next afternoon, she didn't flinch at the smell of sawdust or the symphony of drills and sanders. She ran her palm along the grain of a table and smiled. "You can feel the patience in this," she said. "It's grounding." Her words made my chest ache in a way Ryan's compliments never did. His praise was always transactional. A setup for a photo, a post, a "look how supportive I am" caption that tagged his own handle first. Sarah didn't want credit. She wanted connection. We spent hours walking through unfinished projects, talking about proportion and texture, but somehow ended up discussing the bigger things. How love can make you smaller if you're not careful. How silence can be a language when someone's already stopped listening. When she left, she said, "Let's collaborate. You build, I design. We'll make something that actually lasts." For the first time in months, I felt something stirring that wasn't anger or exhaustion. It was possibility. That Friday, I posted a photo. Just a snapshot of my hands holding a blueprint, Sarah's fingers pointing to a design sketch beside mine. Caption, "Good work, better company." No filters, no perfect lighting, just two women building something honest. By morning, it had exploded. Comments, shares, inquiries, not for gossip, but for commissions. Clients asking if we took custom orders. Local pages reposting it with captions like "Real craft, real women." And then, as if on cue, the old world started noticing. At noon, my phone buzzed with a message from Madison. "Hey, Felicia, love that collab post. I'm actually thinking of redoing my living room. Would kill to have your work in it. LMK if you're available." I typed, "Thank you, Madison. Currently booked, but I can add you to my waiting list," and hit send. 10 minutes later, another message. Also, random question. "Are you seeing someone? Ryan's been kind of distant. He says you've been cold lately." Cold. That was the word he used for the temperature of my absence. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my messages with Sarah. She'd just sent a picture of the two of us, laughing over spilled coffee during our design session. "This one's too good not to post," she wrote. "Go ahead," I replied. "I like it." That night, she posted it with the caption, "Laughing between plans. Simple, real." Within hours, people from Ryan's circle began following both of us. One even commented, "Finally, someone who gets Felicia's vibe. Natural, grounded, classy." Ryan must have seen it, because by midnight, his name appeared on my phone again. "So, that designer? She's cute. You dating now?" I stared at the message for a long time, then typed, "She sees me, that's all." He replied almost instantly, "That's not an answer." I didn't owe him one. 2 days later, Sarah and I met for dinner, ironically, at the same restaurant Ryan once insisted I wasn't polished enough for. We sat at a corner table, shared a bottle of wine, and actually ate instead of staging our plates. She asked me what my dream project would be if no one judged it. I said, "A home for someone who isn't afraid to leave some walls imperfect." She smiled softly. "That sounds like a love story." Maybe it is. I posted one photo that night, the two of us mid-laugh, blurry but alive. Caption, "No filters needed." It got 3 times the engagement of anything Ryan had ever tagged me in. But that wasn't the part that mattered. What mattered was that when I looked at that picture, I saw myself, not a supporting role in someone else's aesthetic, but the main character in my own quiet comeback. And somewhere across the city, I knew Ryan was scrolling through the same post, finally seeing what he'd thrown away, my meals. Not with jealousy, but disbelief. Because for people like him, the hardest thing to understand is that authenticity can trend without trying. By midnight, my notifications were still pinging, but I wasn't checking them anymore. I was in my workshop with Sarah, sketching plans for our first joint client, a coffee shop downtown. We laughed as we worked, pencils tapping to the rhythm of rain on the roof. For the first time in a long while, I felt free of needing to fit anyone's world, because I was building my own, one honest inch at a time. It started with small intrusions, a message here, a voicemail there, then unannounced visits. 3 weeks had passed since my post with Sarah, the one that quietly went viral. The workshop's schedule was packed, my inbox full of orders from people who said they loved the realness of my work. Apparently, integrity had finally become aesthetic. Ryan noticed. At first, he tried to make it sound casual. Hey, proud of you. Saw your stuff on Explore. Then, a few hours later, can we talk? I miss you. I didn't reply to either. On Wednesday, he sent another message. I left something at your place. Can I swing by? He hadn't been to my place in over a month. The only thing he'd ever left behind was a bottle of overpriced cologne, the kind that smells like boardrooms and borrowed confidence. I ignored the text. That evening, I was helping Sarah move furniture for her new office when my phone buzzed again. A motion alert from my doorbell camera. Ryan. He stood on my porch, holding a takeout bag. Thai food, my favorite. I could almost smell the pad thai through the screen. The same meal he used to call our comfort food, as if comfort was something he owned. Sarah leaned over my shoulder. X? She asked. Yeah, I said. What's the strategy? Wait until he leaves. Cold food doesn't bite. She laughed. That low, warm sound that makes silence comfortable. Classic move, she said. Food for forgiveness. I smiled. He's serving leftovers from guilt. 10 minutes later, the camera showed him walking back to his car, still holding the bag. He didn't leave it. Guess he wasn't ready to part with anything that cost him money. Friday morning, he tried again. This time at my shop. It was a bad move. I was mid-consultation with Mrs. Chen, a longtime client, when I heard the bell jingle. Ryan walked in wearing that same confident smile he used to wear like armor. Felicia, we need to talk, he said, stepping between me and Mrs. Chen's dining table plans. I didn't even look up from the blueprints. Not now, Ryan. I'm with a client. Mrs. Chen looked startled, glancing between us. Oh, I can come back. No, I said, keeping my tone even. We're fine. Ryan's eyes flickered, frustrated. I'm not leaving until we sort this out. I straightened slowly, meeting his gaze. Then you'll be waiting a long time. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a saw blade. Mrs. Chen cleared her throat gently. I'll step outside, she murmured, already gathering her purse. Ryan, I said, my voice lowering, you're affecting my business. You need to leave. He scoffed, that same dismissive sound he used when anyone else's boundaries interfered with his convenience. Wow, look at you, big career woman now, acting like I'm a stranger. I'm not acting, I said. He blinked. The words landed. Then, like always, he tried to reframe the story. Felicia, you're being emotional. This isn't you. I smiled faintly. You'd be surprised what's me when I stop trying to fit someone else's picture. He left, not dramatically, not angrily, just deflated. And that was somehow worse. That night, Sarah and I went to a small wine bar tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop, the kind of place where the walls hummed softly with old jazz. We were halfway through a bottle of rosé when her phone buzzed. Uh-oh, she said, laughing as she turned it toward me. Look at this. It was a screenshot from her friend Emma, a story from Madison's page. Madison had posted a blurry photo of our wine glasses, clearly taken by someone else at the bar. The caption, anyone know who the woman with Felicia's new friend is? #small world, #curious. Sarah snorted. Are we being investigated? By the aesthetic police, I said. Everything has to be cataloged and approved. We toasted to it because, honestly, what else do you do when gossip becomes free marketing? By Sunday, the messages escalated again. Unknown numbers, private calls. I blocked one, then another. Finally, I stopped checking my phone altogether. But silence, as I'd learned, doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it's the pause before a final act. Monday morning, Sarah forwarded me a text from Emma. Madison's been asking about Felicia's new partner. Apparently, she found out Sarah's an established designer. Suddenly, everyone's pretending they've always admired Felicia's work. I laughed. A small, exhausted sound. Funny how admiration shows up right after validation, I said. Sarah grinned. Let them talk. You're trending for all the right reasons. Later that day, I came home from a client meeting to find a car parked in my driveway. Ryan. Again. He stepped out when I parked, holding something behind his back. For a moment, I thought it might be flowers. It wasn't. It was the same Thai food bag, reheated, judging by the condensation. Felicia, please, he said, voice cracking. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I stood by my car, arms crossed. You've already said everything that matters. He shook his head. No, I said something stupid. I was stressed, trying to impress Madison's crowd. I didn't mean it. You meant it then, I said quietly. You just regret how honest it sounded. He flinched. Felicia, you don't understand. Seeing you with her? Sarah? I interrupted. The woman who doesn't judge me by my shoes? His jaw tightened. You know what I mean. You've changed. Maybe, I said. Or maybe you're just seeing me for the first time, without filters. He stepped closer, desperate now. Can't we just start over? Start over what? I asked. The pretending? The part where I fund your lifestyle and you call it love? His expression crumbled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But pity isn't the same as love. I walked past him toward my front door. Felicia, he said, voice breaking, please don't throw this away. I stopped, turned slightly. I'm not throwing anything away, Ryan. You did that the night you decided I didn't fit your aesthetic. Then I went inside and locked the door. Through the window, I watched him sit in his car for nearly an hour before finally driving off. Sarah texted 20 minutes later. Emma says Madison's posting about men who hold grudges and toxic masculinity. Thought you'd enjoy the irony. I did, more than I expected, because for the first time in a long while, I wasn't part of anyone's performance. I was the audience who finally stood up and walked out. By the time Ryan showed up again, 3 months had passed since the night he said I didn't fit his aesthetic. 3 months since I decided silence was stronger than explanation. 3 months since I stopped orbiting someone else's self-image. It was a Sunday morning, soft sunlight, coffee brewing, the smell of pine varnish clinging to the air. Sarah had left an hour earlier after helping me finish a set of reclaimed wood bar stools for our latest client. She'd kissed my cheek at the door and said, "You're building more than furniture, you know." I smiled then, but as I drove back from breakfast, I saw Ryan's silver car already in my driveway. Same spot, same nervous engine hum. I parked behind him. He got out immediately, hair uncombed, shirt wrinkled, the crisp image I once knew replaced by something ordinary. Human, maybe, or just tired. Felicia, please, 5 minutes. I didn't answer right away. The birds were louder than either of us. He followed me halfway to my porch before I finally turned. What do you want, Ryan? He swallowed. To explain. To apologize. To, I don't know, fix things. I tilted my head slightly. Fix things? Like a photo edit? He winced, but I didn't stop. You said I didn't fit your aesthetic. You said it like it was logic, not cruelty. You didn't stumble into it, Ryan. You thought it through. You just didn't think I'd listen. He stepped closer, hands open. I was being stupid. I cared too much about how things looked, about how I looked. Madison's crowd, the clients, the events. You wanted to be accepted, I interrupted. I understand that. Everyone does. But you wanted it so badly, you carved off parts of me to fit your picture. He took another step. You have to believe me, Felicia. I see it now. You were successful before I even met you. I just didn't want to feel small. For a moment, the honesty in his voice almost made me soften. Almost. But then I remembered the version of myself he wanted. Quiet, polished, invisible. I exhaled. You didn't feel small because of me, Ryan. You felt small because you kept standing next to mirrors instead of people. He stared at me, eyes glassy. I've changed. Maybe, but that doesn't mean I owe you a chance to prove it. He shook his head like a man trying to keep something from slipping away. Felicia, I miss you. I miss us. I laughed. Not cruelly, just tired. There was no us, Ryan. There was you. And there was the version of me that made you look good. That's not a relationship. That's lighting. He swallowed hard. So that's it? Yes, I said. That's it. He looked around, like he couldn't understand how the same driveway where he once dropped off roses and flattery could now be the site of his own undoing. You're really not angry? He asked finally. No, I said softly. I'm done being angry. Anger still keeps you connected. I just disconnected. He nodded slowly, defeated, then quieter. Sarah makes you happy? She makes me peaceful, I said. There's a difference. Happiness fades. Peace lasts. He looked at me like I'd started speaking another language. Maybe I had. He turned to go, pausing halfway down the walkway. For what it's worth, you really do fit an aesthetic now. People love your work. Everyone's talking about you. I smiled faintly. Then I guess your friends finally developed taste. He didn't answer. Just stood there a moment, then left without another word. The sound of his car fading down the street was the quietest closure I'd ever heard. That evening, I returned to my workshop. The air smelled of varnish and new beginnings. I turned on the small radio Sarah had given me, a gift from her studio, and sanded the final bar stool smooth. The surface gleamed under the soft yellow light. I thought about the irony, how Ryan's words, meant to belittle me, had become the blueprint for my freedom. You don't fit my aesthetic. He was right. I didn't fit the kind of world that needs approval to exist. I didn't fit into spaces where love depends on appearances. I didn't fit into his image, his insecurity, or his fear of being ordinary. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. A week later, Sarah and I drove upstate to a small furniture market. We spent the morning walking through stalls, trading ideas, sketching on napkins, dreaming out loud. At one point, she caught me staring off into the crowd, probably thinking about the past. She nudged me gently. You good? I nodded. Better than good. Better. We bought a set of antique hinges that needed cleaning and a few vintage handles shaped like leaves. As we loaded them into the truck, Sarah said, You know, it's funny. Everyone's chasing aesthetics now, but you're chasing substance. I smiled. Substance ages better. That night, I posted one final update on my workshop page. Just a simple picture of the bar stools lined up in a row, sunlight spilling across the floor. Caption. He said I didn't fit his aesthetic. He was right. I wasn't made to fit in someone else's frame. I was made to build my own. Comments flooded in. Clients, strangers, even one from Madison. Powerful words. Love your growth. I didn't reply. Some messages don't need acknowledgement. They just need distance. Before bed, I checked the doorbell camera. Empty driveway, quiet night. Then I set my phone face down and turned off the light. For the first time in years, I didn't dream about being seen. I dreamt about building. Because there was never elaborate revenge, just refusal. Refusal to stay small for someone else's comfort. Refusal to keep sanding myself down to match his edges. He said I didn't fit his aesthetic. He was absolutely right. And that's the most beautiful compliment I've ever been given.